Hey guys, Paquette here, and I'm going to give my quick thoughts on the patch notes. This isn't everything from the patch notes, these are just things that stuck out to me from the patch notes. If you want to read them, feel free to read them, but I'm not going to do that. So, things that stood out to me. Added a new dexterity/intelligence support gem, Swift Assembly. Gives supported traps and mine skills 3 separate chances to throw additional traps or mines for a maximum of up to 6 additional traps or mines thrown. This might be a really nice go-to support gem for trappers now, and also miners. The reason why I say trap specifically is after the nerfs to Cluster Trap. Cluster Trap and Mod Trap have always felt a bit kind of awkward since the change. This could be really big. I could also see this being potentially very powerful for mine trap builds. By that I mean builds which throw mines, which lay traps. Mine trappers were already a build. It was a niche build, but it was a thing. Now that you throw mines, the mine trapper playstyle makes more sense. A lot of the passive skill tree nodes which affect mines and traps. So you kind of double dip on a lot of your scaling. And with this, I'm not sure, but I think this would maybe proc twice. So if you had a mine that laid a trap, you might get multiple mines, which then lays multiple traps, maybe. I don't know, I think this is a cool support gem. We're getting some more lab enchants. Specifically, we're getting some new boot enchants, which are kind of interesting. Several damage over time skills, such as Righteous Fire, Contagion, and the Death Aura from Death Oath can now break barrels and other objects. Really nice quality of life for these options. Death Oath, sadly, I think has been nerfed, though, since they've buffed area on auras and then, like, nerfed the scaling elsewhere because of the whole new mine aura system. But they didn't say anywhere that they've buffed the base aura of Death's Oath. So I think Death's Oath builds have been nerfed, but they've gained some quality of life. They've buffed fire trap damage by a lot for some reason. They've nerfed trap stuff, and they've done this to compensate. But this seems like a bit mad. So fire trap, I think, could be a big thing. It also has a lot of just base damage over time, and they've buffed damage over time. Well, fire damage over time multiplied. It's a new stat. So this might actually be a thing now. It's also getting a bunch more AoE. For Ice Trap, though, they only buff the AoE, which doesn't make sense to me, because they were like, oh, for Fire Trap, we need to buff the damage and the AoE, and Fire Trap already did more damage than Ice Trap. Like, Ice Trap was good, but Fire Trap was gooder, and apparently that didn't deserve it. Meanwhile, Explosive Trap saw some more AoE and some more damage, and Lightning Trap saw no changes, so kind of weird. But these were the main ones that stick out to me, just because this is, like, crazy, and this was just kind of weird. Raise Spectre. So Raise Spectre's been changed a lot now. So Raise Spectre, the level of your Spectres depends on the gem level. We need to see what like a level 30 Raise Spectre gives to give all the final numbers there. You also gain additional Spectres with levels. But again, we need to see what the thresholds are. This might be enough unless the like getting +3 or +4 Spectres is very achievable. We just need to see the numbers on this. Righteous Fire. Righteous Fire is quite interesting. So it now has very high base, 1.5. It's very good. And enemies now burn for 20% rather than 40%. Basic rule of thumb, if you're playing a build with like less than 7k life, this is a buff. Past that, it'll be about the same-ish. But you can scale this. I think most Righteous Fire builds will come out of this better. But it just depends on the extreme cases where you had crazy life stacking. This will make more builds want to try fitting Righteous Fire in. And it also means that because Righteous Fire gives a bunch of spell damage now, you know, if you're running like a 5-6k build, you just slap it in for the spell damage, but you also get the supplementary damage on top. I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. Scorching Ray didn't get buffed, it got nerfed, which is like weird. So they're trying to like promote this playstyle. They've added a bunch of damage multiplier on the tree. This nerf is to stop it from being broken with the buffs. But Scorching Ray's main skill is always been a very slow playstyle. It's very good for bossing, but it's always been a slow like mapping thing. I wouldn't really see an issue with Scorching Ray being broken just because of how slow it is to clear. But anyway. Smoke Mine. So Smoke Mine is going to be pretty nice with the mine changes. They've said this will probably be too good having no cooldown. So now it has a 2.5 cooldown and can hold up to 3 uses. So it's basically like Flame Dash, which gives you a speed buff. Overall, I think Smoke Mine will be better in 3.8 than it was in 3.7. I used Smoke Mine in non-mine characters in 3.7 and enjoyed it, so Smoke Mine will definitely be really nice. It's something to look out for. Viper Strike is pretty cool now. So Viper Strike kind of works like Cleave, where you attack with both weapons. This means that it attacks with 2 weapons at the same time, but individual hits. So rather than being 1 big hit, it's 2 hits at the same time. This is good, though, because it means you're getting more poison stacks. Minefield. So Minefield now can have up to 4 additional. You throw 4 additional, and it has less mine throwing speed on there, but you have a much lower mine placement. It used to be 0.5, I believe. It's now 0.25 to throw it. You have to take into account the time it takes for it to fly through the air, but it's pretty good. The one thing which annoys me a little bit about this, though, is you're probably not going to need 5 mines to kill a pack. So I think I would rather use the other mine support that I talked about earlier, which has a chance to throw up to 3 additional. It's kind of whatever, that one. Advanced trap support. This one's pretty cool. So this was something that people sometimes used on their big traps, like their lightning spires or the flamethrower traps. It now gives 107 cooldown reduction from 25, which is mad. It does give other things. It also gives like increased duration of the trap, so like your big cooldown trap lasts for longer. This is potentially very powerful for someone who wants to do like a big flamethrower lightning trap pure build, or just have higher uptime on bosses. I like this. Charge trap. This is a pretty nice buff. I was a little underwhelmed just because it's not very interesting, but it's very strong what they've done to it. So this gives you a chance to generate power and frenzy charges, and it will give you bonuses based on your charges. So it used to give you 12 crit multi per power, it's now 15. So if you have only 3 power charges by default, 3 times 5, no, sorry, 3 times 3, you've gained 9% crit multi, and you've gained additional 4, so you only have 3. 4 times 3, that's 12%, so that's pretty good. Considering you would take a 4% trap throwing speed node, you've basically gained like 3 nodes. This will probably be enough to make you want to actually stack frenzy charges on a build using the support. I will probably stack some frenzy charges on my trappers now. And the more charges you have, the more powerful this is, obviously. Trap support. So trap support now gains another 9% trap throwing speed. Trap throwing speed is really good. It gains some damage. It previously didn't have any damage. It kind of sucks that it's an increase, just because increased damage feels bad in modern day PoE. But considering how many more multipliers there are, 38% increase is probably equivalent of like, what, 5-10% more. So it's still good. This is a nice change. We've seen some pretty interesting ascendancy changes that weren't really advertised. So Guardian has a very interesting node here. Radiant Crusade. It now gives 20 to all res. Very nice. While there are at least 5 nearby allies, you and nearby allies have Onslaught. Very good. While there's at least 1 nearby ally, you and nearby allies deal 10% more damage. Really nice node. This next one is very powerful, but it's less nice. Now grants nearby allies. So this is just for allies, not you. 30% increased damage, 15% attack cast movement speed, 30% increased AoE, and cause nearby allies to intimidate and unnerve. And unnerve is intimidate, but for spells, so unnerved enemies take 10% increased spell damage. Very, very strong. It would probably be broken if this also affected you, but this is really nice for minion-based guardians or just support-based guardians. Really nice. Really, really nice. Hierophant. Hierophant is insane now, by the way. Divine Guidance. No longer grants plus 150 mana, now grants 30% increased maximum mana, and causes increase in reductions to mana to also apply to damage at 30% of their value. You're like, okay, that seems pretty cool, but read the next one, and this is where the synergy occurs. Now grants 50% less mana cost of skills. No longer grants 50% reduced mana cost of skills on full energy shield. Now grants 20% of maximum mana as extra maximum energy shield. And 1% increased area of effect per 50 unreserved maximum mana up to 100%. So you would need 5,000 unreserved mana for 100% AoE. That takes a bit of investment, but it's very, very easy to get 2,500 unreserved mana. And that'd be 50% AoE. 50% AoE on a node is pretty good. You're scaling mana to get better defense on mind over matter. It's giving you more AoE, and it's also giving you more damage. Really nice. Really, really cool. I like this change a lot. This is very, very nice. Elementalist. This is insane. So Legion of the Primordial now causes your summon golems to be immune to elemental damage, regardless of type. Previously, there was an issue where your elemental golems become immune to elemental damage, but like your stone and your chaos golem wouldn't. This is a really nice change. Elemancer now grants 35% chance to avoid elemental ailments per summoned golem. So if you have 3 golems of any type, you're immune to all elements. Previously, it was like fire would give you immune to ignite, lightning would give you immune to shock, which was annoying because sometimes you want to just go all in on one golem, but you felt like you had to put the other ones in for the immunities. Now you can just use 3 of any, or 3 of the same. And also grants 25% increased effective buffs granted by your golems per summoned golem. This stacks with other sources of this. And if I show you a very powerful new cluster on the skill tree, here, that gives 20% increased effect of your buffs granted by your golems, 20% increased effect of buffs granted by your golems, and 30% increased effect of buffs granted by your golems. This is really strong. So you get this, you stack a couple of jewels, you get 25% increased per, and this is 25% increased per. And you can play like an ignite build, or a damage over time build, or like just like Righteous Fire golems used to be a thing. So you don't have to be a pure golem build. You just take these nodes, and go like Spiritual Aid or something. And you just stack a bunch of generic damage and it scales everything. It'll be really tasty. Righteous Fire, Golem Elementalist used to be like a big build. And people used to do that quite a lot with Impulsor and stuff. I could see that being potentially very, very powerful. Beacon of Rude now also grants 30% increased effect of non-damaging ailments. So this is like shock, chill. It's cool. Now there's some changes to lab enchants. So the one which previously gave life and mana regen if you've been hit is now just life regen. There's now a specific boot enchant just for mana regen if you've cast a spell recently. Without knowing the numbers, I don't know how good this is. It kind of annoys me that they've separated it like this, just because some builds would really enjoy having that defensive boost. I don't see why we couldn't have had both, but whatever. Avenger's Flask now grants 5 charges when you take a crit from 3. This is actually really big. There were some builds which are all around stacking getting hit. So this is really, really nice. Doomsower, this is pretty cool. So it used to give socketed red gems gain 10% of fizz as extra fire. So if you had like Infernal Blow with this weapon, you just gain 10% of fizz as extra fire. Now it gives you 5% of fizz damage as extra fire per socketed red gem. So you have had 6 red gems, that'd be 5 times 6. Very, very strong. And if you have all red gems, you also get Volpact, which is pretty cool. One thing to keep in mind is it's a 2-handed sword. So you could have your main skill in your chest and just have a 6 red sword. You don't have to have your main skill in the sword. So you can get the full bonuses. Very nice. Ashcaller. Not an amazing endgame weapon, but a very, very good leveling weapon. It now gives 15 to 25 fire damage over time multiplier and 30% increased burning damage. Really strong for leveling. Ashcaller used to feel really awkward. This will be really good now for leveling your Righteous Fires, your Scorching Rays, just ignite builds in general. Very nice. Blasphemer's Grasp. This was already a very nice pair of gloves for people who are stacking like Elementalist Shocks. But now it also gives you increased ailment damage over time per Elder item equipped. I believe it's 4%. Getting 4% more Ignite multi per Elder item, very, very strong. Searing Touch has also been buffed. It gives like global plus fire levels across all of your gear, not just in the weapon. And it also has up to 60% fire damage over time multiplier. Very, very strong. Vismortis got dumpstered. It no longer gives +1 and Unholy Might. It now gives your minions 15 20 LE as extra chaos. You'd much rather just go for a defensive chest or a plus levels chest, especially since plus levels seems to be the main way to scale your specters now. So F Vismortis. You can also get Unholy Might on the tree now, which is worth noting. Coated Shrapnel is very interesting. So it now gives... it has a small radius, and passives and radius give 2 to 3 to 4 to 6 added fizz for traps and mines. So, a lot of trappers and miners take this part of the skill tree. This is pretty well traveled. You could put it there quite easily. You could maybe put one in here, some good nodes in here now. But it's interesting. It's interesting. You know, could maybe be a thing. I wouldn't be surprised if you see it every now and again. It's not the most powerful thing in the world, but it's kind of cool. Combat Focus now also applies to Wild Strike. People got very excited about this. You can be, but don't be super excited. So, things worth noting. Wild Strike chains gain additional blah blah blah. People like chain, oh my god, you go pure lightning, you go Deadeye, it's going to be sick. The problem is, the lightning part of Wild Strike isn't a projectile, and this reads projectiles deal 10% more damage for each remaining chain. The cold part of Wild Strike is a projectile, but it always pierces. So you could go a chain stacking cold Wild Strike Deadeye, just for the damage, which would be good, but all your chain stacking wouldn't actually boost your clear, because the cold part doesn't chain. So, yeah. It's nice that people have options on how they build their Wild Strike characters now, but because Ellie Hit has conversion, it's a crazy DPS boost. This doesn't. Another thing you need to keep in mind is you're sacrificing jewels, which could be damage jewels, and Wild Strike really likes flat damage jewels. So, it's cool, but it's not as sick as people think it is. Curtain Call. Now increases mine destination speed rather than mine arming speed. Now reduces mine throwing speed rather than mine laying speed. Now requires that you have at least 800 int or dex. If it was 800 int and dex, that means you could get 400 of each, or any combination of the two. It's the only source of throw one additional mine now, so that makes it kind of unique, but I don't think it's really going to be worth it personally. I might be proven wrong, but that is a lot of requirements you're going to need, and I don't think it's going to be worth it. I don't know. Tremor Rod looks like it might be potentially very powerful, especially if you're doing the mines that throw traps meme I was talking about earlier. So it now has +2 to all socketed spell gems, and Tremor Rod already had the double detonation of mines and stuff, so that's pretty cool. Monster accuracy rating has been reduced game-wide. Players invest in evasion will, as a result, be evading monsters at approximately pre-3.7 rates. They reworked how accuracy worked in the last patch, which meant people got hit more. It was basically a nerf to evasion. Evasion's basically been buffed back up. Very nice. Also, keep in mind, they've buffed the evasion stuff in Raider. Raider is actually a very good defensive ascendancy. There are a lot of people who are using it for delving, like Herald of Agony. Also worth noting, Herald of